Say, kids, what time is it?
It's kind of like watching TV, but, in your car.
104.7
there we
Mike
go.
the
Every
Intern,
time this
Jay
screws up.
Stevens in the studio.
They can
It
put a man
is
on the moon and they can't
Dark
mute the
Side
microphone.
of the Stream. As promised, I am Mike the Intern. This is Jay Stevens.
Well, somewhere over here
and
I am.
we
Yes,
are naked
we're doing
in the
it.
studio for our 100th episode of Dark Side of the Stream. As you can see, I do not shave anything at all.
But you got tattoos too, so it's a
That's
blend.
true. That's fun. But Jay's clean as a whistle. Look at that thing.
No, I have to be
You
smooth.
get eat off that thing.
They do.
If you don't know what we're talking about, you can actually watch us do this naked online on
That's worth the
Facebook
price of
or
admission right here.
1047thecave.com or our YouTube channel. Either way, it's all there. Anyway, for the 100th episode, it was Jay's pick, and he picked the documentary on Disney Plus called Light and Magic.
Yeah.
So you want to tell me why? Why'd you pick it?
Well, Star Wars was probably if I had to pick one film that was like the summed up my childhood, I think the Star Wars series of films, I had every doll, every.
So were you like 8 or 9 when it came out?
77. Yeah. I think I was 7 or 8. Yeah. 7 or 8.
So I was like right in the
waited
wheelhouse.
in line for 2 hours with Dad in Hollywood at the theater.
Did you go to the Chinese?
I think we went to the Chinese theater, and
really?
I know for sure we went to another. I went several times.
Do you remember? Because I've been down there many times, but I've actually never seen a movie in the Chinese theater. Do you remember anything about that place?
No, I know I saw Aliens there as well.
Really?
Came out.
Oh my God, you were young.
I mean, we used to go there a lot. That was my dad worked up in Hollywood, so it was.
That was like the theater on.
Yeah,
that was like the place.
There was a couple places to go, and that was one of them. I went several times to see this.
I mean, Ron Howard at one point,
for hours.
he was, obviously he had already done American Graffiti, so he was a star, and he said that they went to see it at the Chinese theater, and then they got out, and he looked at his girl and said, "You want to go back?" And got back in the 2-hour line and waited again and went and saw it same day.
Oh man, yeah,
that's a movie. It is Light and Magic, the documentary about industrial light and magic, created by George Lucas and a bunch of crazy, awesome
hippies,
engineers,
really?
Designers, artists,
Playmaker.
you name it. You did it. But basically, the reason why he did that was because he wanted to make the space opera, and really at the time in movie making, special effects wasn't really a thing anymore. It had been in the 60s, but then film kind of started to get away from it. So there were a lot of guys that were in this industry that were just strictly working for, commercials. They would make animations for, laundry detergent or whatever. And Lucas was like, I'm going to need to create something.
I need a guy.
Yeah. I need to create a company essentially to do what I need to be done in this film because it doesn't exist. I can't hire anybody. So we have to build it.
And it was word of mouth. Like, hey, I know a guy down in Venice. Let me go down there and talk to him.
That was the cool thing. And they say it many times.
Cool. Just a networking scene.
The guy who pretty much started it with Lucas, John Dykstra, I think that's what they call him. Yeah. Lucas said himself, because what you really need to do is find that one guy that kind of knows everybody. Yeah. And then he just brings everybody with him. And that's essentially what they did with John, is because he was essentially the one that was corralling this madness.
Gosh, yeah.
But he did. He, like you said, he knew everybody. It was like, we need to build a miniature. And they'd be like, I got a guy. And then that guy would be like, we need to help with map painting.
Oh, I got a guy.
I know the guy. And so that on and on and on and on and on.
Man. It's so bad. And that the best quote was like, they were too, they weren't smart enough to know their limitations. Like,
they would just figure out
we can't do it. Well, let's figure out how to do it. Like, instead of going, no, that can't be done. They're like, I don't know if it can be done, but we'll try. And those guys did it, man.
Yeah. And they did it, but it didn't come easily. And what I mean by that is they had already spent early on. Well, first of all, before we go down there, the one thing that I thought was really cool at the beginning of this documentary was all the child home movies these kids had done when they were growing up.
Yeah. They all were like little filmmakers.
And these kids were using like little miniature cameras and stuff. And you think about now when you see these idiot TikTok dudes that are like, just talking over videos or just like filming fights or whatever. And there's really no creativity.
No,
these kids were so creative with what they were doing.
And you figure combining all of them, each guy that did something like that, he probably learned a little something that maybe this guy had a little something else. So when you combine them all, basically built ILM.
And it's still to this day. It just an amazing company. We'll continue the story of Light and Magic Naked Dark Side of the Stream next on 104.7 The Cave. Mike the Intern in the studio this morning with Jay Stevens. We don't have any clothes on, and this is Dark Side of the Stream episode 100. We made it to 100.
Yeah, incredible. The Centennial, is that what that is?
Yeah.
We should have made it warmer in here. It's
Thanks.
cold
Jay's getting a little rock hard over there, Nips, but I'm feeling pretty good. I got my hat on, so I got a little bit more in this beard. And a lot of body hair. So
Chewbacca.
That's right. We are discussing Light and Magic documentary about industrial light and magic on Disney Plus. A great story. This wasn't the first documentary that's ever been done about this company, but as far as this one goes, it's Ron Howard, it's Brian Grazer.
Done right. When I saw those names, I knew it was going to be done right.
And they did. They had access to everything. Mm-hmm. And so you kind of hear the story about how this company was created out of necessity to make Star Wars. They wrap it. And this was so telling to me because George Lucas, I guess in his mind, at one point he says, after it's over, he goes, "Oh, I only got 25% of what I actually wanted on film."
Yeah.
And that's after like these dudes worked on, like it's an incredible, so crazy project in the first thing, because when he started the special effects, he knew he needed it. They start doing their thing in Van Nuys, and then he flies to London to do all the principal shots with the actors and the blue screen.
Comes
and all
back.
that
Let's see what you got, guys.
He's gone for months, and they shoot all this stuff.
All the money's gone.
While all these dudes have been doing this, they had a $2 million budget. He comes back. He's like, "Show me what you got." 2 shots. Yeah, one of the Death Star shooting a cannon, and the pod drop out. When C-3PO and R2 get out of the Rebel spaceship and they go down.
Could you imagine?
And Lucas is like, "You spent $1 million on this." Now, granted, and they had a great explanation. It was like, "Look, we had to build everything. Yes. We had to build the cameras.
We had to figure it out.
How we were going to shoot it. Yeah. We had to understand some things that we were creating." And they were going so far as like when
machining their own parts. Yeah, dude.
They would go, and like the invention of super glue was a huge thing for them. They would buy hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of model box sets so they could use like little tiny thing. It's so imaginative, but it worked. And to me, I have the first 3 original on VHS, the untouched final copy that you can get on VHS, because I love them so much. Yeah. There's something about the homegrownness of that film.
Too. And then when it came to Empire, it was like that was next level. Like, okay, they knew what they were doing a little bit more, and they pushed the boundaries even more.
Yeah, and kind of fine. And again, some of the people got left out of that, and I think like Lucas hyper focused on what the people he knew that would bust their butt on making sure they got what they wanted. But it's so crazy, like how imaginative Lucas was. But then again, from the perspective of these guys, where you hear stories about like Paul McCartney not being able to read or write music, right? So he would just explain to people, well, this is what it sounds like, and this is what I want it to do. And then that person had to figure out, okay, this is their vision. Same thing with these dudes, because Lucas, I guess, couldn't really draw. He would just explain in his mind what it was he was looking for. And
he had such a vision for this thing, like to get that out from your head to here. Like, I mean, the Star Wars thing is, granted, it's just like a classic hero's journey, but it was next level, man. All the space swords and all this, and like, what's this guy trying to do, man?
Well, and it's the story of mythology, but a mythology that exists either in the future or in the distant past, whatever. But again, I'll go back to what he said about 25% of what he wanted was on film. When he said that, I was like, oh my God, it was even then from the 70s. He was just waiting for digital to get to a point where he could go back and do exactly what he wanted to do. And in my opinion, ruin the films with those touches digitally.
Yeah, I'd leave well enough alone and just move on, make a new movie. Go. Yeah.
There's a reason Paul McCartney doesn't go back and change
Pro Tools, all the early albums.
Now, granted, when they did the remaster on certain things, sometimes artists will change little tiny things, but that you're messing with history. And really, as an artist, they always say like an artist's work is never done. They just get to a point where they can't do it anymore, and they just say, okay, it's out there. You know what I mean? And I think Lucas's biggest mess step was just not being able to let it go.
Yeah, just realize, hey, time make a new movie, make something else.
Yeah. Speaking of which, we'll talk some of the other great movies that Industrial Light and Magic made as we continue our Naked Edition 100th episode, Dark Side of the Stream, next on 104.7 The Cave. 104.7 The Cave, Mike the Intern, Jay Stevens in the studio. We don't have clothes on. It's Dark Side of the Stream, episode 100. Jay's pick this week, Light and Magic, the story of Industrial Light and Magic, one of the greatest, if not the greatest, special effects companies ever created. So the next, again,
they became the go-to guys.
They were for everything. I mean, there's a part where they're going through and they just start showing you all the movies. I mean,
anybody that needed special effects, these are the guys.
Created Pixar, sold it to Steve Jobs,
came out of there.
Necessity for digital animation because the guys that were running that wanted to do cartoon film because they could see what they could do with it. Lucas was like, I don't want to do cartoons. So they sold it to Steve Jobs, and look what Pixar did. That's just a little part of what Industrial Light and Magic was. But this was one of my favorite parts of this. So Lucas is insane. And he obviously, I think he does have some either manic depression or just straight up depression issues because he works this hard. He's under the gun. He's like, we're mixing Star Wars literally up until the day before release, right? He's like, and it's just like all this pressure, all this money, blah, 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 blah. It's a huge success. What does he do? He doesn't want to be in LA when it comes out. He leaves.
Yep.
They go to Hawaii, him and Spielberg, right? They're buddies from film school. And he's
hanging out on the beach.
Hanging on the beach. And they're, talking about, well, what do you want to do next? And Spielberg says, I've been dying to get Broccoli to let me do a James Bond movie. Because all these dudes are film nuts. And everyone, if you're especially a film guy, early Bond is so good. Yeah. And Spielberg's like, yeah, I just really want to do a Bond movie. And George Lucas is like, I got something better. Than that. But he set terms. He's like, if you're going to do this, I want you for 3 films.
Hitmaker.
Hitmaker. All this stuff. And basically it became Indiana Jones and Raiders of the Lost Ark. Now that in itself is one of my favorite movies of all time, in addition to Star Wars.
Yep.
But the creation of how they go into making the clouds, when they're opening up the art and that water tank.
Like, who makes this stuff up, dude?
I don't know how they came up with it. And then
hey, I got an idea. Let's try it.
The ghost scene where they're flying around and the face turns into a skull. Like that stuff is so unbelievable.
Incredible, man.
Cool. And still to this day, that scene when they open the ark and those ghosts start flying around is still one of my favorite ghost projections.
The way they made it's incredible.
Of all time.
Watch it just to see how they did that is worth
it's
watching
so
this
good.
documentary.
It's so good. Now, after all that stuff, they get into the whole digital thing, and it's just like that's when I started. I know at one point I was like, "There's no way Jay understands."
Yeah, it got
any
deep.
of this stuff.
Yeah,
but it takes away from it,
And then these guys that were spent all their life making this craft and art form, they were kind of like left out in the cold. Like,
but they hit a wall with what they could do, and they knew that when they did Return of the Jedi, they knew that was probably going to be the last time they ever did any kind of like stop motion stuff or anything because they were like, we hit a wall with how far we could go with it. At the same time, computers and digital starting to become the thing, and we had to run with it.
Yeah,
because you got to make it better. We'll discuss our reviews next. Dark Side of the Stream on 104.7 The Cave. 104.7 The Cave, Mike the Intern, Jay Stevens back in the studio. Dark Side of the Stream, episode 100.
100.
We did it naked, but we also wanted to say a big thank you to you for allowing us to do this 100 times, which
for not getting us fired yet.
We're not
today. It's subject to change after the day's episode.
Some of the stuff that we've done, some of the stuff that we've talked about. It's just like one of those things where we kind of feel like, maybe we're pushing this.
Sometimes we push some boundaries, I think.
But at the end of the day,
we try to be honest reviews.
Yeah, we try to be as honest as we possibly can. So with the 100th, Jay picked Light and Magic, the discussion of Industrial Light and Magic. And
how many super glue bottles?
How many super glue bottles am I going to give it? I had to give it a solid 4.
Yeah, I think 4 is fair.
Yeah, big time.
Yeah. Because it was really good. Yeah, the last episode, could have give or take it, but it was just amazing watching the footage that they've had of these guys doing what they did and the ragtag bunch that they were.
Just like I said, it was just finding guys that were good at what they did, and a lot of them were like, "I'll do it for free." Yeah, you know what I mean? And it's just
they
like,
just want to hang out. They just want to hang out.
That tells you a lot about these guys and what it was that they love doing. Because when you have people like that are just, they would do it for. Like I always say about this job. If I won the lottery, if I won that Mega Millions, I'd have been work next day. You would have never known. Never known.
You would have known mine. I would.
I would never see Jay again.
You would have known for sure. There'd
So
be signs now. What are we watching next?
it's my pick. The 101 episode. I'm going to make you watch a documentary about Amy Winehouse. It's called Amy. It's on HBO Max.
Oh, yeah, it's good. Perfect.
As a big soul head myself, I think she was an incredible,
she's good.
incredible talent that we lost way too early. She's extremely troubled, but because of her and her band, there's a lot of bands now that I love that really started with the group that she had playing for her when she started.
All right.
So we'll get into that.
Good insight.
Get a little knowledge about Amy Winehouse. I know we don't play it on the Cave, but it's great music in my opinion. So you're going to learn it and you're going to love it. As always, you can download these as podcasts on our 104.7 The Cave app. On our website, you can watch us live every week, YouTube, Facebook at 9 a.m. on Thursday. I'm Mike the Intern. This is Jay Stevens reminding you,
we watch
movies so you don't have to.
to.
It's a naked dark side of the stream on 104.7.
We don't have fancy special effects. I'll do a fade to black.